Hello, hello. Welcome to Revelator Alf. It's a radio podcast thing, don't you know? And here I am here in the studio, coming live in full effect. It's snowing outside. I put out a quick short earlier on. It's snowing. I had lots planned today. Going away and doing things, and unfortunately I've had to cancel everything. So I thought, you know what? Let's get a few things together. Let's see what's going on in the world and put out a little live show. So that's what I've decided to do. Coming at you direct from the Man Cave, Man Studio. And I thought I'd dig into what's going on in the motorcycle world, but actually just a free-for-all, really, a free-for-all of what's going on in there. I'm out in the world. There's lots going on in the world, of course, but there's lots of stuff that's happening near to where I am, as it were. But you kind of makes you wonder what the hell's going on in the world, really. I mean, look, we can ask that on a daily basis. What the hell is going on in the world, right? But from a motorcycling point of view, if I just want to kind of narrow it all the way down just to that, it's a bit of a funny time, really. I've been taking a couple of bikes out for test rides, and thanks to some lovely comments and emails that I've been getting as well from people out there. They're saying, look, we like these reviews. We like you just doing these kind of not proper, like other channels might do, a proper review. I'm just kind of giving you I call it a once-over review. In other words, I'm just giving you I'm just going to go ride it and tell you what I think of it as a kind of overall bike, as it were, and what I like about it, what I don't like about it. So, I mean, that's what I've done with a couple of one. I got another one coming out on Thursday, tomorrow or Friday. I've got another one coming out, and maybe you like that, maybe you won't. But I say I would love to do a lot more of these kind of once-over reviews. I suppose I'd like to do them because I just like riding bikes for a start, and any excuse to go and ride a different bike is great, right? So from that point of view, it's good. It doesn't take a lot to produce them in terms of time. I get a real flavour of what a bike is quite early on. But as I've always said, if you want a proper review, go to another channel, right? But also, the real crux of this is that any review should be after a long time spent with a product, right? Then you'll work out what's good and what's bad with it, right? So, if I get a product sent to me, for example, by a company, I don't know, whatever, or I buy something and I say, look, here's a review. It's kind of, you're giving it your first impressions, or you're giving it something. Now, sometimes you can live with something for a while and say, look, I've had this for about a month or 2 months or a year. But by then, if you're talking about bringing out news to everybody, or up-to-date information, then sometimes it's a little bit outdated, if you know what I mean. So I think trying to do a review as in something from a news point of view, let's say like these shows, I try and bring in news items of what's going on in the motorcycle world, or sporting world, or motorcycle sports, or just general stuff going on in the world, or my thoughts on different things. But when it comes to reviews, then you've got to hit where the iron's hot, really, or certainly with products. Because let's say if somebody sent me a pencil, right? They sent me a pencil. Hey, can you review this pencil? And I say, yeah, it's all right. It's a pencil. Yeah, it writes, it works, and you can sharpen it, and there we go. It's a pencil. Oh, look, it's got a little eraser for those Americans listening on the end. We call them rubbers, right? Rubbers, which obviously means something different in American English. But anyway, so it's but by next year, the company might be out of business, or they might have moved on to pens, or they might have moved on to I don't know, crayons or something. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of got to, it's a timing thing, I often find. If you want to produce a relevant review of something of the here and now, Because let's say a company, they want to sell their product. Well, if you're doing it in a year's time where they're not selling the product anymore, it's not really, really worth it. Jerry, good morning and afternoon. Good morning, good evening, and good night. Defiel, hello, you're in the house. Hello, how are you? You got your drink, you got your popcorn, you got your eyes, you're wondering what the hell's going on. Yeah, I sometimes think that too. What the hell is going on in the world? But there we go. So I thought I'd launch this show with some news, biking news, then a general discussion. Open it up to anybody listening, or in the chat later on. In the comments later on. I'm just trying to find. Here we go. You got all the socials there. I'm putting out lots of information on the socials. The website still pumping out those blog posts on a daily basis. I've got for the next couple of weeks, I've got spec sheets or motorcycle specs for 2023 bikes coming out as well. If you're interested in that, you can either come to my website or you can go to the manufacturer's website, of course. There's no way I'm going to be able to have all the manufacturers there, but it's when I've got time, I just put out a quick spec sheet. And really just try to make it a lot more digestible. It's just in one place and away you go. But obviously I'll be putting news blog posts and information blog posts out on a daily basis or every other day as well. So the website is going from strength to strength. And it's kind of been refashioned. I've got all the social pages that are sharing all mostly blog posts or the shorts which I'm putting out. Yeah. Nice pencil. Any aftermarket options? Well, it comes in green as well. Green and bright billiard blue. There we go. Very good. Very good. I like that. Very good. So yeah, I got the chat open here, there as well. The websites. Let me just put the website here. Basically what I've been doing this morning, I've been trawling through all the news feeds that I get, and there isn't a lot. I've got to say, it's a bit of a dead day in terms of motorcycling. I covered quite a few of the up-to-date stories in yesterday's live show, but not today. In terms of politics and everything, sometimes I look at things outside of the motorcycle world. Well, the thing is, I do this on a regular basis anyway, right? I do this on a regular basis, but I've got to say, sometimes I look at the things going on in the outside world, and I think, what the hell is going on? We've got a prime minister here in the UK. He's just taken over a couple of months ago, right? First of all, he says to everybody, his first speech was, right, everybody who's at school up to 16, it's mandatory to go to school to be in some kind of education until the age of 18, right? Never used to be. It used to be up to 16. Now it's 18. And this has been for a few years now. However, what he's saying is actually, because he comes from a mathematics background, and he said, all right, now every student has to do some form of maths. I said, well, lots of kids don't even like maths. So why are you forcing on them? People can't, do maths. So it depends what you're trying to tell people. If you're saying, right, okay, if you're in some kind of form of education over 18, well, it depends what it is. Because if it's vocational maths, if it's like everyday maths, if you're going to say to people, okay, if you're not going to study maths, we're going to give you some everyday maths. And I'm talking about dealing with taxes, paying bills. What is tax on goods? How does the system work? And these are kind of tangible things, relative things that people are going to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. They don't care about trigonometry. They don't care about algebra. They don't care about cross-cancelling equations. Because most people don't use that in adult life. So it's sometimes these politicians, again, they come out with this stuff and they don't think it through. The thing is, right now, most countries have got some kind of form of immigration or migration problem, right? So they're saying we've got to the English Channel, so people are coming across the channel in boats, flimsy boats, very dangerous. But they're saying, right, the slogan here is "Stop the boats." Right? Let me just put it up there for you. I'll show you. Right? Stop the boats. This is very much a kind of Trumpy type of slogan, and it says here, "Stop the boats," right on his lectern there. And basically, well, they're not stopping the boats at all. What they're doing, they're going to wait until people get here, right? Or they're going to capture them in inverted commas, right? Capture them, detain them, send them back from whence they came, but then they're going to say, "Oh, you're never allowed to come here again." Well, if you're an asylum seeker, or if you're a person who's trying to get to this country, let's say, well, I don't think that the country saying that is really going to deter you, is it? And also, it's not stopping the boats, so it's flawed. But also, the funniest thing is that this policy that they want to introduce is actually against. They're admitting now, actually, this might be breaking human rights laws, international human rights laws. You couldn't figure it. Wish the president, Jerry Powell, wish the present government could do maths. Well, I wish they could all do. SDFL Croatians to GP. No, it's not. It's not. There's lots of people coming into the country on the boats, and most of them are coming from either I believe sort of African or sort of places like Syria, that kind of thing. Middle Eastern countries coming over as well. I can see why people do it. They're taking huge risks, but they're fleeing whatever they're doing. But they're coming trying to get here for a better life. The question has always been, well, they're passing through very rich countries to get through to the UK. So makes you wonder why they're trying to get to the UK. So the government now, they said, well, they've tried everything else. They're trying to say, right, whatever. We're going to try and make it even harder. But it just seems like one of these silly kind of headline grabbing policies that actually holds no water, if you know what I mean. And it's going to be flawed. Anyway, he has to go into the face all the other political parties today in the Commons and see how they like that. But there we go. Well, actually, they've been Sestio can't send them back to their countries, so where to send them? Well, actually, they have been sending people back. It's a weird thing. It's a very controversial thing. They've been sending them back to a place in, I think, I can't remember if it's Uganda or Kenya or another country. Help me out if anybody's listening. But basically, out of space. But basically, they've been sending them back into some kind of no man's land holding pen type thing. It's just been crazy. And then from there, they're supposed to be filtered back to their own country. But, people are lost. People get out of the system and whatever. And this is costing millions and millions and millions, of course, dealing with this issue. It's not just this country. It's many countries are facing this. Whether it's United States, whether it's Canada, whether it's South American countries, African countries themselves, all European countries are facing this. Italy is facing a huge thing as well. You mentioned the Ukrainians, so this was a huge problem when the Ukrainian war started and people were fleeing. And there was a massive... So you've got a known issue here where the rest of the world is trying to help people from Ukraine and resettle them. But then the British government was making it really difficult for people to come over into the UK. They weren't issuing them with visas, and it was just ridiculous. It was just absolutely ridiculous, but there we go. I'm not a fan of politicians anyway. I'm certainly not a fan of any political party or anything like that. It's not that I don't share some of their political views, let's say. It's just I just don't trust politicians. I think they're all self-serving, well, whatever. I won't swear, but I think you get the point what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so there was some nonsense stories coming out. I thought I'd do, I do my searches, my online searches, and I'll say motorcycle and motorbike, and then I'll go through each manufacturer and I'll try and look for the latest news of, Harley Davidson, Suzuki, whatever, and that's how I come up with the stories. And I kind of look at sources like Reuters and Associated Press and Google News. and things like that, and other sources as well. But as I say, it's just one of these dead days. Then I was sort of floating around other not sources, but other platforms, and see what's going on. But it just seems to be one of these weird days today. The manufacturers, I think I said this before, they've kind of shot their load in many ways. From January, February, March into April, they're usually very quiet days, and I kind of think I kind of think that these motorcycle publications, let's say, they struggle at times like this because they think, well, some of the stories that come out, some of the news pieces, they think, crikey, you really are scraping the barrel here, aren't you? But I feel for them because I'm kind of in that space as well, and I kind of think, well, there's not a lot to talk about, So that's why I have been making a concerted effort since the end of last year to try and start talking about other things, and start talking about other issues. Because, look, I ride bikes or work on bikes. I'm very passionate about bikes, let's say, whatever. But obviously that's not my only interest in life, and we all have other interests in life, so it's always good when I get emails or messages where people try to make me aware of some other things that are going on. Now, most of it is motorcycle related, or how it affects motorcycles or bikers, that kind of thing. But sometimes it isn't. So yesterday's topic was about Tesla Autopilot, and that was a direct result of an email that I got. So I quickly looked into it. Let's do that. Let's just get into the comments here. A rise of proletariat. Buell, new Honda, Suzuki. Well, Buell, I've talked about Buell and their bikes. Buell are a bit of a funny one because they've been going for a number of years, but a lot of their products haven't really been to the mass market, and they've been talking about coming out with a range of bikes for the last sort of 2 or 3 years, and sort of feature that and had that on the website as well. I've done videos about that as well, but they haven't really come to market with a bang. Obviously now they've tied up with Roland Sands as well, so I think it's 2025 they've got some new bikes. Well, they're supposed to be launching all these new bikes at the same time. So it always comes down to backing, doesn't it? It always comes down to finance and how much money do they have, and do they have the production facility. Now, are they going to be something like Keanu Reeves type outfit, Gard Hollinger or whatever his name is, who produced the KR-GT1 and stuff like that? A very small amount, very small production, bespoke, or is it going to be scaled up production? Now, it's not going to be anywhere near the likes of Harley Davidson, Indian, whatever. But I suppose it could be scaled up to something like a small motorcycle manufacturer. I suppose it depends where they're going to produce them in the United States and that kind of thing. So it'd be interesting times. I mean, I think, because we haven't got a lot of evidence of their bikes, we don't really know what their main intentions are and what scale they're going to offer this. Is this, Arch Motorcycle, that's right, the Keanu Reeves. So, I would imagine it's going to be a lot more scaled up than, something like Arch, but, at what level? And also, I think, when I released the video a few weeks ago about their super cruiser type thing, their sport cruiser, it's what price it's going to be. So it's always the same thing, isn't it? It's okay, what bike are you producing, and is it a great bike, but what price is it going to be, and are people going to buy that? Can they afford to buy it? New Hondas, loads of Hondas coming out with loads of bikes. Actually, it was in October, November. Like most other manufacturers, they release all the notifications of all their 2023 bikes, or it would be 2024 for next year. They do it the autumn. They do it in the autumn. So I've already discussed those. In Suzuki they got their ADV, the 800DE, I believe it is, which is their kind of smaller scaled down version of the the V-Strom. Yeah, Suzuki do a great. That's a good ADV bike actually. That V-Strom, it is really good. Buell, yeah, Burl, yeah, the mystery continues. Buell, yeah, I knew what you meant. Yeah, so it's very interesting with Buell, I think, because they're not. They carry the Buell name, but Buell has got nothing to do with them. So what are they exactly? You know, they're a manufacturer that isn't really manufacturing bikes. So they're taking pre-orders. So there is something mysterious about Buell for me. Or I ask questions. I just ask questions of Buell, and I think, well, you know, what are they? What are they? You know, what are they doing? Let me just have a quick look here on Buell, because I can show you here. Buell Motorcycle Company. Here we go. Buell Motorcycle. So Buell, so you can buy. I'm thinking buy Buell direct, can't you? Buell, we believe buying a bike. All right, so you can buy it direct. So you can order it. So you put a deposit down. Oh, okay. So this has all changed because I haven't looked at Buell in a while actually. So yeah, so you can actually. Let me have a look here. The models. That's what I want. Yeah. So they've got 4. Yeah. So the problem is they've got 3. Okay, so they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got 5 bikes here: the Hammerhead 1190, the 1190 SX, the Super Cruiser, the Baja Dune Racer, and the Super Touring. Let me just put this over so you can see it, right? But not all these bikes are available. They haven't all come to market here. So if you look at this Super Touring here, if I just do this, it looks. Do you know what? It looks nice. Let's see. I mean, you can't. And okay, so this is it's estimated MSRP starting 21,995. For future release. Okay, so this is the one, but it's saying 185 horsepower, the 1190 Super Touring combining Buell performance. It's this 1190 engine. They've basically created lots of different bikes with this 1190. So that's the Buell Super Touring. The Hammerhead, which is a sports bike, and this is the 2023. So you can put deposit on this. But it's a weird one. I tell you what, it's very odd. It's very odd with Buell because I think you can order them. You can definitely order them. You can put them down, but I'm not sure when you're actually going to receive them. Like the Baja Dune Racer, yeah, again estimated 19,995. So these are being sold, but they're all being produced, but they're only for their own factory racing or whatever, the hill climbs. But I think you can, and some people have bought them, but I think they're going on general release in 2025. Yeah, it says here, the 2025. So let's have a look at the Hammerhead 1190, that's 2023, so that's now. The sports bike, that's a 2023, that's 1190 SX. The Super Cruiser, that's 2025. The Baja Junior, and that's 2025. So they've got these bikes, they're all on here, but there's only a couple you can actually order now, and they're talking about some, you know, you can pre-order, whatever. I mean, it's just an I mean, this Super Touring actually looks a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I'm not sure what it wants to be though. It's kind of a cross between hard luggage, an ADV and a sports tourer. It's a little bit odd, I've got to say. I'll have to have a look at that a little bit more. Jerry, how's Norton doing? Norton, I think they're trying to expand a little bit. I think they're trying to come out with their bikes. They're looking at a dealership network all over the UK. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think they're selling many bikes. They entered this program a few weeks ago where you can order direct from them and they would have it delivered to you, or you could test ride their bikes now, you'd fill out an online form. I think you have to pay the deposit or pay thousands of pounds here, and it's a way of saying, well, you bring the bike over, I'll test ride it, but you got to put a big deposit down, and obviously there's going to be insurance and everything, but they really want you to buy the bike. But there's nothing to say that you can just say, no, I don't like it, send it back and whatever, and then you get your deposit back. Does Buell use Harley frames for the Super Cruiser, or is it all Buell? I believe it's all. Let me just have a look here. Good question. I believe that there's a lot of it that is. No, it's their own frame. It's definitely their own frame. But there's lots of similarities. This is why I sort of hesitated. There's lots of similarities with it. But it does look. Let's have a look here. I mean, it does. And it's sort of when you got Roland Sands involved and stuff like that, it does look nice. So I hadn't looked at Buell website for a couple of weeks, and so this wasn't here a few weeks ago. But so now it's all there. So it's interesting. This is for 2025. £450 of super sport power merges with easy go and ergonomics in this iconic throwback to style and Sunday afternoons. Yeah, it's very much that kind of street Harleys, aren't they? Our muscle comes from Buell's unique 175 horsepower V-twin, swing arm forks, 17-inch wheels and brakes providing better ground clearance. Yeah, it's their own bike. I mean, basically they've just created their own frame to accommodate this engine. It's got a monoshock rear suspension, upside down forks, I think is front. It's got a kind of a weird rear swing arm. Well, it's not weird. It's just quite thick. So this is definitely not going to appeal to lots of people. It depends how much this is going to be, of course. I mean, how much is this going to be? I mean, yeah, I'm quite, I'm quite excited by this bike from Buell. I think in the next couple of years, Buell are going to show us what's what really. But again, you'd like to think, well, how many bikes are they going to produce? How much are they going to upscale this? But very interesting, as I say. Jeremy, it sounds a bad business model. Yeah, it just seems a little bit wishy-washy to me. I mean, it sounds a little bit like Norton were before they went bankrupt. It just sounds a little bit odd. I'm not saying it's, the totally different situations, of course. And I'm not saying there's anything nefarious going on with Buell at all. I'm not saying that before the lawyers get involved or anything. I'm just saying it doesn't come across as being, here's a bike, here it is, there we go. Why a lot of these manufacturers are saying, okay, you just come direct to us to order your bike. I suppose you'd have to look into it a lot more and say, okay, can I come and visit the factory? Do you have some kind of showroom where I can see it? So you kind of wonder if they don't have that facility, at their manufacturing place, they should have some kind of showroom feature where you can be able to go. So you have to make the effort to go there. But in the absence of any dealership network, they're always going to struggle. So where would they try and have this bike, first of all? Well, if it's going to be for the United States, of course, well, let's face it, the United States is a really big country. So where do you set up? Well, I suppose you set up where you think your biggest market is going to be. And by the looks of that bike, it would kind of hit California ridings a lot better. It depends whether this is going to be California emissions compliant as well in terms of everything. So again, it really depends. They say $20,000 to $25,000. I would imagine, yes. Where they're going to set up in Walmart? Well, yeah. Now, so this is where I think Buell might set up. Okay, and I'm only using it as what's just happened here with Norton. So Norton are, again, they are a kind of very similar situation to Buell in that they're bigger, they're producing more bikes, I suppose, but they don't have a dealership network because they're restarting again, right, after the collapse, and then this new Norton took over. So they're starting to try and get in with dealerships around the country who are offering multi-brand dealerships, right? So I reported on this a few weeks ago where they were potentially in talks with in a dealership network that sells Indian motorcycles. So they say, well, they might be selling Nortons as well. And I'm just wondering whether the likes of Buell might try and tie in with some multi-brand dealerships in the United States, or do some kind of deal with the likes of Polaris or something like that and see if they can get their bikes in to dealerships like that. I doubt that's going to happen, but what I'm saying is that I would not be surprised if they do something like that to try and not set up a full dealership for themselves, because as people comment on videos as well, yeah. And I was speaking to a dealership guy a couple of weeks ago and said, single brand dealerships are very hard to make money unless you're unless you're the likes of not even the big Japanese. It's very hard to make a lot of money from a single brand dealership. Harley Davidson do it, but I don't think they do a lot of it a lot of sales in terms of that. So if you are a dealership, you're able to sell multiple brands of bikes, then you're onto a winner, basically. Seen several Brit vloggers visiting multi-brand dealers. Yeah, they do. I mean, they're I wouldn't say they're all over the place. They're common. We have also in this country motorcycle warehouses or motorcycle superstores. There's a brand name for that. So they basically sell either new bikes or used bikes, but it's just like a big auction. It's not an auction, but it's just, you can go and buy anything. You see, a lot of bikes have even new bikes have transitioned away from showrooms into online purchases. But even these online purchase places have said, actually, what we found is that our customers still want to come and look at a physical product before they buy something. So that's it. They've just got no frills. There's no showroom. There's no dealership type thing. It's basically just a big warehouse where you go in and you can see you got all these thousands of bikes there, but there's the bike that you want, and you can actually have a look at it and go, oh, okay, yeah, got it. I don't know about test riding or anything like that. So there's different ways of doing it. You can do like the likes of Buell and Norton. You can do online sales, yeah, and lots of smaller manufacturers, let's say of the small CC bikes, or Chinese bikes or Indian bikes, yeah. You can just do it online. Just do it, yeah. £2,000, £3,000, dollars, shekels, whatever. Yeah. I like that. I'll order that. Thanks very much. Deliver it to my house. There you go. So it's job done. And it might be the way to go. I think buying something online, especially when you're looking at that bike, they've probably got to do something when the bike is ready to come out, or when these bikes are ready to come out. And I think this is where Norton, for me, they haven't done a good job in this. That there doesn't seem to be lots of physical evidence or online evidence of these bikes being out there, ridden, test ridden, or tried. I'm not saying they have to give them to YouTubers, but what I'm saying is they have to produce more media to make sure that your online business model is going to work. And without that kind of anecdotal evidence there, or without lots and lots of different people saying, yeah, I've ridden this bike, it looks good, it rides good, all that kind of stuff. If you don't have a physical showroom where people can go and walk around the bike, if you don't enable people to have test rides, then all of a sudden you've got a bit of a gap there where people are thinking, well, it might look great, but I have no idea whether it rides great. I mean, case in point, I went the other day, last week, what it was, to ride a Harley Davidson Sportster S, which you saw a video of. I don't think it looks very nice, but I thought, I want to see how powerful it is. Yeah, it goes like a train. It really does pull hard, that bike. But it handles not very well at all. It does not handle at all. And so that's what I think. Well, that's the merit of trying something before you buy. And this is where I've fallen out with sales guys in the past. Well, not fallen out. I've just disagreed with sales guys in the past where they said, "Oh, well, it's the same bike. You can just go. You've ridden that one. It's kind of similar, whatever." And for me, no. For me, you have to ride these things yourself. And you don't trust somebody like me, and you don't trust somebody, who does who's got a motorcycle review channel, or you don't trust a website. You can get information, you can get impressions, we can tell you, what's right or what's wrong in opinions wise, or we can show you different details and everything like that. But fundamentally, that you've got to get yourself on that machine or in a car or whatever it is. You've got to go and try it out and see if you like it or not. Especially on a motorcycle, because a car is a stable platform, and a truck and whatever is a stable platform. So it's going to be stable. Whereas a motorcycle, there's so much more dynamic elements to it, and you've really got to feel comfortable for it. Actually, online bike sounds cool. Would shake up individual shops in the US. But what about test rides and service? Well, this is okay. Test rides, yeah, I just talked about that. Yeah, I think you need to be able to test ride these things. And how they do that in a small country like the UK, it's actually a lot easier to do. As I said, Norton have offered this thing where they will deliver a bike to your home address for you to test ride. You have to pay for the privilege of doing it. You have to put a big deposit down, which you get your deposit back if you don't want to take the bike, whatever. But there is this facility, and more manufacturers are starting to lean towards this kind of model as well. But you're right, servicing is a big thing. So you've got to look at who can service your bike. And yeah, it will be something like, well, obviously this will be direct with the manufacturer. So the bike has to go back to the manufacturer, which is fine if you're a small country, because the delivery charge won't be great. It depends if they set up like a dealership network or whatever. But if you're in somewhere like the United States and you live in Florida, but the manufacturer's place is, their facility is in California, well, that means that you have to ride your bike or have it shipped from where you are 3,000 miles or however far it is from Florida to California, just to have your bike serviced and then bring it back. I mean, how expensive is that service going to be? Do you know what I mean? So that's the thing. So it raises up really big questions. So for small countries, I think this works a lot easier. European countries, this kind of model would work really okay, because you just go back to the manufacturer and it's not that far away in the grand scheme of things. Let's say you could ride for a few hundred miles. Let's say you could take your bike into the manufacturer. Maybe they give you a spare bike for the weekend. You can make it a weekend, or a couple of days away, that kind of thing. You can stay in that local area and then just ride your bike back. Yeah, I get it. But it's no way near as comfortable, no way near as convenient as just having a dealership just down the road where you can, have your bike, have your bike serviced. The other option here is if they open up the servicing of these bikes to general service centres. I don't know how that would work, actually. I don't know how that would work. But they would open them up to any mechanics and say, right, okay, what you need to follow this procedure, this procedure, this procedure. They may do online video courses, that kind of thing. Cute little countries like England. Yeah. Well, you know, we are cute and we are little, but we are big and brave. No, I don't know. But anyway, listen, I think there is an inherent issue with it, isn't there? If you're only buying direct from the manufacturer, there's one thing to buy it direct, but there's also, as you say, it's the aftercare, it's the servicing. Now, we know most people who buy motorcycles of any description, they tend, after a couple of years, they tend to work on these themselves, right? And because they are V twins, the parts will be different, but the process is going to be the same. But it really depends, you know. It depends if independent workshops are going to be able to get their hands on this. I suppose the independent workshops, they can say, right, okay, well, we can go direct to the manufacturer. They can give us all the information, you know, so on and so forth. I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Buell have an open, some kind of open policy where independent workshops can approach them for information or for, you know, doing work on their bike as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's that link already. Independent service is available for Harleys here in New Orleans. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that's the same for everywhere. But the thing is, you know, Harley Davidson and the companies like Harley Davidson, again, this, I always had to be very careful when I was saying things about this, like warranty and servicing and your rights, because it depends where you are in the world and what rights you have. But as we know in the United States, Harley Davidson had just been dragged over the coals because of their bogus warranty claims that you can only take it to Harley Davidson, it can only be in Harley Davidson parts. Whereas, you know, places like UK or whatever, or Europe, they've had different warranty laws for a while, and servicing laws as well. Yeah, some bike manufacturers are very picky about who works on them. KTM, yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, you know, they're going to say to you, and I talk about this about services and warranties. That, you know, the point is that, let's say KTM, for example, they're saying right now, and this is the same with Husqvarna and GasGas now. They're saying, okay, we're going to give you, all new KTM owners, or even used KTM owners and Huskers and GasGas, we're going to give you, was it 7 years? 7 years of what it is. Sorry, lifetime. They're going to give you lifetime breakdown roadside assistance, right? So if your bike breaks down, then you'll get this roadside or breakdown recovery, right? But the problem is not the problem, but that is tied in with you going to have your bike serviced at a KTM, Husqvarna, GasGas service center. You have to have it. So to get this privilege, you have to have it. So that doesn't break any rules per se, because all you're saying is, no, if you want this extra bonus that we're giving, you have to have it serviced here. However, there's a different thing. If you want your bike serviced, it doesn't have to go to a KTM approved service center in order to maintain warranty. And that's here in the UK or in other countries as well. And again, it changes from country to country, right? What their rules are. So, you know, you don't have, but what they have to prove is that that everything has been done in compliance with KTM standards, let's say, or Harley Davidson standards, or they have to use the right tooling. So sometimes these independent workshops or independent mechanics, they can't sign for something in a service book because they don't have the the training, or they don't have the specific tooling. They can do the job, but they just can't sign for it. So if you care about having something signed for in a service book, let's say, then that becomes a bit of a problem. Then all of a sudden, then you have a bit of a challenge then to claim some kind of warranty issue if your bike hasn't been serviced properly. So there's always these little get out of jail things. So this is what Harley Davidson have been up against in the United States. So that there's always like a burden of proof on the owner to say, well, actually, no, this bike has been worked on. It has been serviced. The problem being is when you start changing out parts, and again, this is what Harley Davidson came up with as well. You know, and it's like you start changing out parts, and the manufacturer, you're using non-manufactured parts. So let's just say, for example, you're changing out engine parts or uprating the engine, performance-wise, and you're changing fundamentally what the power output of an engine should be. Then all of a sudden, if something else fails, there is a legitimate thing here to say, well, actually, you've changed that engine, so therefore it's not our problem. You know, but let's just say you changed something on a seat, for example, or you change a bit of the suspension, but then you have problems with the engine. Whereas to say, well, the suspension or the seat has got nothing to do with the engines, therefore, it should be a problem. They're also saying, let's say, that, okay, if you had some work done on the engine and it's with a compatible part, right, then as long as it was done in accordance with Harley Davidson, KTM, whatever, servicing standards or maintenance standards, then it's, then it'd be fine. But Harley Davidson used to say, actually, no, you can't do that. If it's an S&S part or whatever, it would void your warranty. But now that's not the case. But the onus is still, the burden of proof is still on the owner to say, you've got to have receipts, you've got to have documentation to say, and somebody effectively has got to sign a service book or sign something to say, hey, this has been done in accordance. And that's the problem. It gets this kind of, even now, it gets this kind of vague area where people or manufacturers would try and get out of it. They don't have the computers and updates. Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially for new motorcycles, you can go to an independent service center or independent workshop, and I've spoken to guys locally or whatever, and they say, yeah, can't work on that bike because I don't have the parts for it, I don't have the tooling for it, or I don't have the access to the computer. We can do certain things, we can't do everything. It's the same. Now, I was with a company, looking to do with a company called, what they called. A lot of the independent workshops, this is for Harley Davidson I'm talking about, a lot of the independent workshops, they use a company called Techno Research. And basically, this is where a lot of, because Harley Davidson's, they have to use that Digital Technician 2, which is tied in with Harley Davidson, and that's how they get everything. Most of the work independent workshops can do, and they do it with other shop computers, let's say, right? They do shop computers, but a lot of that is based upon specific programs and that have access to all sorts of different bikes, right? So one of the companies that do this is called there are lots of companies that produce software for shop computers for all sorts of motorcycles, right? But Harley Davidson is a bit of an oddity, and a few other manufacturers, I think Suzuki as well, they have proprietary software and all this sort of stuff. So you got these other companies that, like Techno Research, who provide shop computer software that can interrogate Harley Davidsons and do all the stuff, but there's always something that they just can't do. So sometimes you might have to go back to a dealership, but for the most part, they can do virtually everything. So The independent workshops, it really depends on what they specialize in. So if let's say in the United States, for example, well, the overwhelming the overwhelming motorcycle of choice is the Harley Davidson, right, or a V-twin of something. So if you've got a V-twin workshop or a Harley Davidson workshop, most of the time they're just going to be working on Harleys. So they would gear up their shop computer to work on that bike, especially if it's kind of electronic based. But if it's mechanical based, then as long as you've got the literature, which they would have, to say, okay, what torque setting is here? Well, they're all qualified motorcycle mechanics, so they're going to be able to turn their hand to a Harley, to an Indian, to a Honda, to a Suzuki, whatever it is. But if they just specialize in V-twins, then pretty much it's kind of an easy thing for them to do. All they need to do is just take parts off, put another part on, and away you go. The problem is when you're trying to interrogate the bike in terms of electronics, that's where the problem is. With modern motorcycles, I'm talking about. With older motorcycles, it doesn't really matter. You just get in there, and they're very easy to work on in certain respects. Scoot, hello, thank you for joining. So it depends. It depends how independent workshops are going to be able to work on bikes in the future. I suppose this is the question now. In the future, how are independent bike workshops going to work? And if more manufacturers go to, especially smaller manufacturers, go to a direct sales or direct purchase, you go to the manufacturer website, you buy the bike off there, would they open this up so independent workshops can work on bikes, As if I've got to go make some money. Thanks, Alf. Hope the red pencil works for you. Yeah, well, I'll be changing it for a bright billiard blue very soon. Cheers. Have a good one. So it's an interesting one here. It's an interesting one for the future. I mean, I have no idea. I think you look at trends of different motorcycle manufacturers. You look at the trends and you think, yeah. It's definitely changing, and it's definitely changing the way I look at the way small motorcycle manufacturers or manufacturers of small motorcycles, how they're changing. And I just wonder whether that model, the business model for, let's say, European countries or the United States, whatever, whether that will be adopted by the big manufacturers. And the things like, online ordering or, multi-brand dealerships or multi-brand showrooms and things like that, will that become more of a common thing? Will you have dealership owners saying to a manufacturer, I say, well, fine, we'll sell your cars, or we'd like to sell your cars, or we'd like to sell your motorcycles in this case, but we're just not making any money. We can't afford to stay in business. So do you know what? We already have a used bike section or a used car section, whatever the case may be. And in that section, we're going to sell anything anyway. But it wouldn't be surprised if they start saying, well, actually, because we can't really make enough money just with yours, we're going to start selling somebody else. And there might be terms that they cannot get around. There might be contractual things that they cannot get around. But I'd be very surprised if a single brand dealership continues into the future. You've got to imagine that people in the future are just going to be more discerning and just want a lot more choice. But it's just like going to the supermarket, right? Look at the way supermarkets have changed. Look at the way supermarkets have basically decimated individual retailers over the years, because people just want convenience and go into one place and they can buy everything that they want in one place. You could have, and it's happening in motorcycles and it's happening in cars, where you just go to a big warehouse or a big sales area, a big sales platform, and you can buy whatever they have on offer, right? Harley Davidson, Indian, Suzuki, Kawasaki, whatever, Norton, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. It's all there. You can go and buy it, whether it's used, whether it's new, have it. And I wouldn't be surprised if something like this happens in the future as well. And also we've got to factor in, well, what about buying trends and people in the future, or motorcyclists of the future? Will they provide? Will they want to buy motorcycles in the future? That's the thing. Will they want to buy motorcycles in the future, and will they want to buy a particular brand? So or do how would the laws change where people say manufacturers are allowed to dictate what dealerships can and cannot sell, what owners can and cannot do to their motorcycles? All this kind of stuff. What will happen with electric bikes? What will happen with alternative fuels? There's so much change coming. It's scary actually how much change is coming. But for you and I, it's probably it's well, you and I, in terms of the people of my age, let's say, or a little bit younger, it's not really going to be that much of an issue. But certainly the next generation coming through, or our children's children, let's say, that's where it's going to change. I mean, that's where you're going to see the big changes. But yeah, there we go. Buell, like I say, Buell, I like Buell. I've always liked Buell. I've always liked their bikes. And this Super Cruiser, that they're bringing out 2025. The only thing I would say about this, it kind of reminds me, with their other bikes, not the Hammerhead, which is the sports bike. And this sports bike looks nice. And this is saying it's 2023. So I've been looking at this bike. It must be 2 or 3 years now. So this is where it gets a bit confusing for me, when these bikes are actually going to come to the market. So the 1190, the Hammerhead, and the SX, which is a 2023. I've been looking at this bike for a couple of years, and I've written stories for a couple of years ago. I'm sure I have. I can't remember the exact date. But it just goes to show it takes a good 2 or 3 years, at least, to bring these to market. And this reminds me of Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson, when they're bringing out the Pan America and the Bronx, right? The Bronx. That we knew about these bikes about 2 or 3 years in advance. And, we like the prototypes and everything. And then they brought them round. And you think, well, maybe you just release that information a bit too early, and it just seems like such a long time for this bike to come to market. And this is what I get with Buell. It just seems as if I've known about these bikes for such a long time. And then you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Do they come out? Are they going to come out? Who's riding them? Nobody's seen them on the road and everything like that. And then after a while, you kind of, I don't know, do you lose interest? You kind of lose interest. You think, go on to something else which I can actually physically ride. I can actually review on, or I can take pictures of, or I see it on the streets. So if you don't see it, but you've only heard about it, then how long do you have to keep on hearing about it before you lose interest? So, but according to Buell 2023, they've got these 2 bikes. The Super Cruiser, the Baja Dune Racer, and the Super Touring, that's for 2025. But we know that these bikes are out there. They've got the prototypes. We got the pictures of them and everything like that. That's another 2 years to try and get this sorted out. And you kind of wonder, well, I'm not saying why does it take 2 years or 3 years for these bikes to come out, because there is a process to come. There's that homologation, or however you say it, and there's obviously type certifications, and it's not only for, let's say, one particular market. Let's say the United States, they have to do it for Canada. They have to do it for different states in the United States. Let's say for California, but there's a European certification, there might be British, UK certification, whatever, Australian, whatever. So it's a minefield of how long these things take. But then you think, well, it takes such a long time. Maybe don't release all the information, or maybe just talk about these bikes, but talk about something else as well, if you know what I mean. And so the Buell is in a bit of a funny situation, I think, for me. It's just a bit. It doesn't have. It released information, but nothing was going on. I think that's the. And look, don't get me wrong. This could be the way I'm feeling is probably the way because of COVID and where everything kind of loads and loads of projects sort of stalled and nothing really happened. So maybe this is the way it's going on. There we go. Scoot, would be nice to see the future of motorcycles, and also will not be there. Well, I don't think many of us will be, Scoot, but I hear what you're saying, pal. I hear what you're saying. Same with the BSA Scrambler. Exactly right. Yeah, BSA took a long time, and then you wonder, well, where is it? Where is it then? It was released. It was supposed to be released. This is the first, the Gold Star, right? It's supposed to be released. So where is it? Then you've got the BSA Scrambler, which you put up on a show, but you make pains to say, well, actually, no, we're not going to release this bike. Well, if you're not going to release it, why have you put it on the show? Why have you showed everybody? Well, you know that's what they're looking to do. They're putting it out there. You know. Chris Patton, hello. Oi, 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 oi. How are you? All right. Yeah. So it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it? You know, they manufacturers, they put out these early views of products, whatever it is, but then you kind of lose interest in them because they're just taking too long to come to market. And then when you think, well, okay, we'll revisit this. In the case of Buell here, which I've just done. Put the wrong picture up. In the case of Buell, you think, okay, well, yeah, be interesting. But then, I would much rather that the manufacturers. I kind of like the way the Japanese do it. In that, the bigger manufacturers, the Japanese, they say, well, in the autumn, they say, well, these are the bikes that are coming out next year. There you go, that's it. So you got a few months to wait, and then all of a sudden they start appearing in the dealerships, or you start seeing them riding around. I like that. Same with the Harley Davidson in many ways. If that's what you're into, right? You say, well, these are the bikes for next year. These are the bikes that are coming out this year, or a couple of months later, we say, oh yeah, we're just about to release this new bike now. Okay, fine. There's not that much of a wait. I think they've learnt their lesson now from the Pan America and Bronx debacle. But the problem is there are other manufacturers that are still following that kind of process. Too much of a lead time. Scoop bought the Pan America Special last year. Waited 3 years for the bike. Yeah, it's just way too long. I think way too long. I mean, look, talking about the Bronx really, because every now and again this whole thing comes up again. Will Harley Davidson, will they bring out this street bike? Right. Personally, I think they should. But and you'll see a video which I'm coming out in a couple of days. But the Bronx originally came out with a 975cc engine. It'd probably be tuned for a street bike and everything like that, right? But after riding the Nightster 975 engine, if they put that 975 in a Bronx and bring it out for production, no way. That is not a good fit. That Bronx just needs that 1250 engine, essentially. If that's the only power that you can deliver from that 975, it needs a lot more. It needs to be a bit of a beast. I think, that's if they ever produce it. But the 975, for what it is, of what I've ridden, Scoop, cheers, Scoop. Nice for you to stop by and take it easy. But if that 975 it's just underpowered, it's just lackluster, and you think, well, it's nearly 1000 cc. Surely it should have been far, more powerful than that. But it's just nothing really. And these are liquid cooled engine, and you think, well, surely it should be more than that. But no, really disappointing. Really disappointing from that power of that bike. And when I say disappointing, it's disappointing if you're expecting it to be more than it was. I was expecting it to be a little bit more than it was, and it just wasn't really. It was a bit naff. But there we go. Right, let me just have a look. Oops, wrong one. What have I done here? Yeah, there we go. Just coming up there. Don't know why is that. Sorry, a live chat has just come up on my screen. I don't know why, but there we go. Yeah, so let's have a look at some of these other manufacturers here. Yeah, again, very slow. It's been a slow few days in terms of the motorcycle news front, and what's going on. I'd say I've been searching around for stories the other day. I did a short yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Oh, I went down the rabbit hole. Yes, the day before I went down this rabbit hole where something flashed up on my news feed, right? So I started to watch it, and then it started referencing. It was a YouTube video, right? And I thought, oh, okay, see what's going on here. So I started to watch it, and they were referencing something that somebody else had said about them in this other video, and I was like, okay, what was that then? So you pause it, right? And then I just did a search of this other video and never heard of these other things, so I was like, okay. So search it. Oh, okay. Tried to find the video. Right. Oh, I found the video. Okay. Started watching that, and then within a few minutes, or maybe 20 minutes, or whatever. I was just trying to get to the crux of the story, or trying to read all the comments and trying to say, what's going on here, right? And then I had to pause that video because they'd referenced something else, another video. I went to that video. And the same thing happened again. I was reading all the comments and saying, "What's going on here? What is this story? What is this?" Because I've got my kind of research head on, and I'm going, "What's the story here? What's going on? What's going on? All these different people, different opinions." I won't go into what it is because, it's just because I thought, "What have I done this for?" I ended up watching 6 or 7 videos, spending about 3 or 4 hours going through stuff, and at the end of it I was thinking, hold on a minute, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're researching stuff because it's sparked your interest about something that you don't even really care about, because it's kind of think, what am I doing? And that's basically what it was. I spent 4 hours just on the computer, just tapping away, going, well, what's going on here? What's going on there? Looking at that. And then I think I've just wasted 4 hours here of just doing absolute nonsense. People, the haters, let's say, come onto my videos every now and again. And it's, and I could put out a 1-minute video and people say, God, I've just wasted a minute. I wasted my time watching that. And I think, crikey, that's only a minute. You must value your time a lot. Try wasting 4 hours, pal. Try wasting 4 hours on a bloody video, then see how you feel. But anyway, that's that. So that was me a couple of days ago, and the reason why I bring this up is because you can easily get drawn into stories or conversations or arguments, or not arguments, but opposing views of any subject, right? Whether it's politics, motorcycles, whatever, lace curtains, whatever it is, right? You can get drawn into different arguments, but you don't really know what is going on behind the scenes a lot of the time. And it's the same. Some of the things that I've been talking about for the last couple of years, let's say with Harley Davidson or with Indian or other motorcycle manufacturers, the thing is, you're just scratching the surface. So what I kind of like to do is look a little bit deeper and see what is going on out there, and see, well, why is that opinion like that? Why has somebody else said that like that? And but then sometimes you start digging and there's nothing there. There's nothing really there. So you think, well, what's the point of that? So I was watching this video and I think, okay, right, well, why is this person saying that, and why is that person saying it? Is it really relevant? Okay, let me watch that. And you embark on this whole thing and you get completely sidetracked all the time. Anyway, so my only advice to anybody is, if you feel this is happening to you, just stop. Just think, what are you trying to achieve here? What's the point? I kind of liken it to watching TikTok videos or any kind of video, any kind of media, where you're just kind of losing yourself in the kind of repetition of searching for something on your phone or whatever, and not actually realizing what you're looking at or what you're listening to, whatever. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and this is why I call this show here a radio podcast thing. I've always been a big fan of radio as a context, as a medium, let's say. And I really like podcasts, but the main thing is, it's because you can either watch this, as in the video, you can watch this and you can see me doing whatever I'm doing and, drinking my coffee or whatever, or you can just listen to it and just do something else as well. So that's why the benefit of podcasting and radio, because I can actually be physically doing something else and it's just on in the background, or it's in my headphones, whatever. I go for a walk with the dog, I'm listening to podcasts. The funniest thing is, right, so I'm walking around like this, and I'll give you a demonstration of where it is, right? Let me take my headphones off, right, but hold on. So this is me walking around, right? Walking around, I've got my coat on because it's freezing outside, it's snowing now, everything, right? Would you believe March and it's snowing, but there we go. So this is me walking around, but under here, well, obviously I haven't done it, but under here I've got headphones, so I'm walking around. And people are, and if you've ever got a dog, people are going, hi, and they start talking to you, and I'm going, yeah. I can't hear a word they're saying because I got this thing, blurting away in my ear. But there we go. Anyway, I can hear myself now. But so I get lost in my own little world when I'm listening to, the radio or listening to podcasts. But, if I'm watching a video or watching a podcast, I prefer to see the visuals as well. Joe Rogan actually is one of the biggest podcasters in the world, right? When he moved from YouTube to going on a private deal with Spotify, one of the first things he said to them was saying, you've got to incorporate video into your shows, my shows, which I'm going to bring to there, because if you don't, you're just relying on audio. You need to have people visually there. And this is, you can apply that logic to anything, right? You can't just rely on one sense. You have to incorporate lots of different senses. So, the likes of some. I kind of relate this back to the show I was doing yesterday. We were talking about Tesla and the way they've abandoned certain technology and only focused on other technology. And so, well, actually, you've kind of shortchanged yourself there, or shortchanged a lot of the public who want to buy your product. And so, well, actually, it could be a lot better if you'd incorporated other technology, but maybe the technology isn't there, maybe it's too costly, that kind of thing. And we could say this about cars, motorcycles, toasters, whatever, anyway, so this is I did go off on a tangent there, didn't I? But this is something, I'd say, let me just have a look here, see what we got my destinations, there we go. Right, I'm still streaming. I've got to check my stream from time to time, because every now and again it seems to fluctuate. But so I am streaming on Twitch as well. So hello everybody on Twitch. Hello. And I'm streaming on YouTube as well. So there's a couple of people. I don't expect many people to be watching this as well. But it's interesting when you talk about the motorcycle world. The motorcycle world, bikers, let's say, people have different opinions. I always thought that I ride bikes. I've ridden bikes for all my life, right? I've ridden bikes, and I like all sorts of bikes. And I find it even hard to identify with what my preference is in terms of motorcycling. Am I a Harley Davidson guy? No. I ride a Harley Davidson. I love it, but I wouldn't say I'm a Harley. In fact, even when I went to buy it, I was kind of, I'm not a Harley Davidson specific guy. I like Indians, but I'm not an Indian guy. I like BMW. I'm not a BMW. Do you know what I mean? Or I'm not I like sports bikes, but I'm not a sports bike guy. I'm whatever. I'm not a cruiser. I'm not a tourer. Whatever. I like a bit of everything. but I don't really associate myself with being anything. And I just wonder how many people are out there like that. But the same token, you know, I kind of view people in the same way. You know, I don't have a necessary preference for one group or another. I don't necessarily have a bias, I suppose is a better word, between one group or another, between one type of motorcyclist or whatever. But at the same time, motorcycling isn't my only interest. If you watch my channel and my live shows, yeah, I do sports stuff as well. I love sports and football, especially, and boxing, especially. You know, but combat sports, I suppose, like MMA, but especially boxing is really my thing. But football is my number one. But motorsports as well. So, but not everybody likes that, and I always said this. Back in the day, this was, you know, you find me a motorcycle or a biker who likes football as well, you know, it's a bit of a rare breed, really. Only in my circles, right? Because everybody who I knew who rode a motorcycle, right, wasn't interested in football. So I was kind of lost at times and thinking, well, I'm a biker, but I don't necessarily just like bikes. Yeah, I love football, but I don't just love football. Do you know what I mean? So I always found myself fluctuating between two worlds, if you know what I mean. I like trucks, I like vans, I like, you know, that kind of thing. So there's another avenue. I like social views, but I like conservative views. I like you know, social programs, but I also like capitalism and I like business, you know, that kind of thing. So for me, there's always been lots of variables. There's always been lots of ideas, you know, that's it. Morris, hello there. Hello. No brand loyalty. Well, do you know what? I don't know if that's a criticism or a statement of fact. I don't have brand loyalty. That's for sure. I would definitely say. I've always said this. And hopefully I say this on a regular basis, that people see where I'm coming from. I only look at the product, not the manufacturer of the product. I look at the product and does it hold water, or does it satisfy my needs, or does it, you know, do I enjoy it? Do I like it? Do I like the look of it? Do I like using it, riding it, driving it, whatever it is? You know, as long as it's what I want out of a product, I like it. But just because I like that product, it doesn't mean I've become a big fanboy of the company. You know, so you know, that's the way I view it. And there are lots of people who don't. They get onto this brand loyalty. They get onto this becoming fans of a. I just find it. I still find it really, really odd that people love car manufacturers or motorcycle manufacturers with the same passion that I support my football team. You know, I just find it odd. The thing was, you know, and again, you could say this. You find it odd that I support a particular football team. You know, but I'm always bitching and moaning about that football team. I'm always grumbling. I'm always saying, "Oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?" and everything. And every football fan I've ever known is exactly the same. We're all the same. We're like, why did they do that? And then 1 minute we're, you know, going crazy. Yeah, fantastic. And then the next second we're all going, oh, that's rubbish. But with motorcycles, especially, and let's say with Harley Davidsons, you know what I'm talking about here. I just find it a bit weird to say, well, why? I'm not sure why I would be a fan or hold you in such high regard, because all you're doing from me is taking. You're not providing me as a company with entertainment or with enjoyment or pain or suffering. A product that you've produced may do that, but you as an entity don't. Whereas when we're talking about sports teams or football teams, the company, the team, the club, they provide me with entertainment. An individual player or an individual bike model, an individual player, an individual product may provide me more enjoyment than another player. Do you know what I mean? But the club as a whole entertains me or holds my passion. I suppose there are similarities there. Actually, in many ways, I may have just contradicted myself. I suppose there are similarities there between being a fan of of a motorcycle company and being a fan of a football team. Yeah, I suppose there are. Actually, I kind of take that back. I suppose. Yeah, I think you can. I think you possibly can be a fan. I still find it a bit odd though. I still find, or I suppose, look, this is me growing. This is me learning. Look, I suppose, yeah, you can be a fan of a Harley Davidson, let's say, but I would second that with saying, well, or I would come back at that with saying I'm just not a fan of a company like Harley Davidson or Indian, whatever. I just may like the products or some of the products that they sell, but that's it. Morris, I'm tracked with Makita as I have all the batteries and chargers. I do like a Makita, I've got to say. It's weird though. Okay, this is a big... I know you've done this on purpose, but this is a big thing. My other big love is tools, right? I love tools. Any kind of tools. Power tools, hand tools, workshop stuff. I love it. I love it. In fact, I probably love the tools more than using the tools. Does that sound weird? It probably does sound weird. That's true. I love working on motorcycles, but and things like that. But I much prefer just having the tools. I much prefer, just looking at the tools, and it's just weird. I know. I kind of hear myself saying it. I'm thinking, what the hell am I? What am I saying? What am I talking about? But it's true. But anyway, Makita, would you believe, is one of the first power tools that I ever had as a brand. And it was only because where I went, we're talking years ago, I don't know, 35, 40 years ago, maybe even longer, I don't know, right? Well, not going to say I bought it, my dad bought it, but and I went with him. But anyway, they might have been a brand new brand for the UK back then, that time. So maybe that's why we just fell into like a promotion, or they're having a promotion of these Makitas. Anyway, so went there and we saw it and bought it. Oh, okay, that's cool. And it was a drill. It was a drill. It was a drill. It's a Makita drill. Yeah, it was very nice, very good. So it's weird though, isn't it? Whether it's a Makita, whether it's a Milwaukee, whether it's DeWalt, whatever. People buy these. And because they've had a good time with them, it's a good price, or it might even be more expensive, but you think of, it's reassuringly expensive. You're paying for quality. And then you realise that actually you can get a really cheap version and it does exactly the same. And you probably find that they're all built in the same factory somewhere. You've got your Makita line, your DeWalt line, you've got your ABC cheapo line. And some of these cheap products actually last just as long, if not longer, than some of the more expensive ones. But then you get trapped, as you say, Morris, in with batteries and chargers, and you think, I've got to buy that and buy that, and then they change the batteries or they change the fitting of them, so you have to buy another set. It's just a minefield, isn't it? But I have to watch myself when it comes to tools, and buying tools, because I could easily get carried away. If my workshop was a lot bigger, by now I would have set up my own motorcycle service centre by now. That's always been in the back of my mind, to set up a studio, a YouTube content creating YouTube studio, but also it would be a place that people could visit, as in like it'd be a showroom type thing for merchandise and all that, but also it would be a proper motorcycle workshop. And whether I would actually open that up to the public and do work for the public, but it would just be a huge workshop, whatever. And more than anything, it wouldn't be so I could show everybody on YouTube, hey, look what I've got, or from a business point of view to say, hey, I'm going to be doing oil changes on Harley Davidsons, or engine swaps on Kawasaki's or whatever. No, nothing like that. It would be purely just so I could have all the tools. That's it. Is it? It would be purely so I could have all the tools and I could just play with them, like a child plays with Lego. That's where it comes from. But there we go. So that's it. That's my what goes on in my world. Right, listen. I think I'm going to leave it there. Really, I've got. I'm looking at some of the news feeds right now. There isn't a lot going on. I wish there was. Let's have a look at some of the stuff I already talked about yesterday. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out about. I'll tell you what is interesting. The last 2 weeks, there's been lots of stories about Harley Davidson financing and Harley Davidson as a company in terms of are they going to do good, or are they doing well? Are they not doing well? Is there something hidden within their finances and everything? I've been reading lots and lots of that, and it continues today. Harley Davidson financial, there's financial news coming out of there as well. The interesting thing, last year or the year before, when I was doing a lot of Harley Davidson company videos and how they were doing, I was getting criticized because I was talking about things of articles which I've read, or the ideas which were coming to me about would Harley Davidson, are they going to be in trouble, are they doing the right thing and everything. But essentially, I was reading all these articles, but I wasn't showing these articles where I've written. So then when I started to do these live shows again, I actually thought, do you know what? I'm going to show where these articles are coming from. So it's similar to this. I'll quickly show you now, right? So here, let's just say for here, there's one here. And these usually come from finance websites and stuff like that. But then we talk about, it's all this sort of stuff, and you can sign in to, read the whole article or understand it. So I mean, there's lots of articles that flash up, and some I subscribe to in terms of financial news, because I say, like, there are certain companies which I might be interested in. I'll say, well, Harley Davidson or HOG, in terms of stock prices and everything, and then you can get emails sent to you. So that's what happens. You look at that, and then that's been one thing I've noticed the last couple of weeks. There's been lots of stories about Harley Davidson in terms of finances, and their stock price that's been fluctuating. Are they in a good position? And it's just a weird thing. And the reason why I haven't touched on it on a video, or touched it in a live show to make the whole show about Harley Davidson in terms of finances, because it's so vague. You get one article saying how bad Harley Davidson doing, the other another article the next day will say how good they're doing, and it's almost like they're finding different things to question, and I suppose they're doing it because Harley Davidson is one of the few that I can think of that is listed on the American Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange. I can't think of other motorcycle manufacturers that are listed in that way. I could be wrong. I'll have to. I've just thought about it just now, whether that's it. So maybe that's why there's more interest in a company like Harley Davidson and their subsidiary company Livewire, who also have floated themselves. And that's why you're probably getting more. I'm getting more stories on that. But as I say, they just every now and again you get a whole wave of stories or questions about Harley Davidson from a financial point of view. And I still question this. I still question whether a company like Harley Davidson are will be in a secure financial position uh, in the next few years if they continue with their same model, business model, let's say. And look, I've been heavily critical of. I know all motorcycle, all product prices have gone up. We know that, right? It's not as if I'm saying, oh, it's only Harley Davidson who've risen their prices. No, every motorcycle manufacturer has risen their prices. Every car man, everything has gone up. We know we're in inflationary times, and this is my point. Has always been. If everything is going up, the cost of living is going up for everything, and we're not expecting to see that come back down for another couple of years or few years, what kind of an effect will that have on a company like Harley Davidson, who sell expensive motorcycles anyway? Will we see the emergence of cheap brand motorcycles, motorcycle manufacturers just getting bigger and bigger and bigger because that's what people want to buy rather than buying the big expensive stuff? It's the big expensive stuff only for older people, a lot older people who are more cash rich. But what about if those people who are cash rich and they're not spending their money on these big ticket items anymore? They're gonna, whatever. But then the counter argument to that is where people email me or people leave comments and say, well, no, the Harley dealership near me or the Indian dealership near me has just sold out of all their stock. I have no evidence for that. I just say this is what people tell me. They say, well, no, they just sold it. They're just selling bikes left, right, and centre. I think the problem is they may be selling bikes, they may be selling particular models, but are they selling all the models? I can go to a dealership right now. There's loads. I went to the dealership just down the road here the other day. They got loads of bikes in there. Great, it's great, nice to But how many they're selling, I don't know. I have no idea. But the question is, how many are they going to sell? And I know it's an awkward time of year because it's still cold here, right? And it's been cold, and people aren't really thinking about riding motorcycles or buying motorcycles. Probably, maybe within the next few weeks, it's going to change, especially if the weather improves. But it's the same all over the world. If you're coming out of winter, if you're in a winter, these are slow months really for motorcycle purchases. As soon as spring finally gets here, then all of a sudden people start thinking about it and they think, oh, okay, maybe I'll buy a bike or something like that. But the question still remains: is are they going to buy the big expensive bikes or not? I mean, especially the 120th anniversary bikes, or the CVOs and things like that. Are people really going to buy it? And we've got to make this distinction as well. I think somebody was saying when I was really critical of Harley Davidson launch of their new models and the 120th anniversary. So, well, here in the UK, and I don't know about Europe, but here in the UK, we're paying we are being charged an astronomical excess for any bike that has the heirloom red. Comes as the 120th anniversary. I can't remember, for some bikes, I don't know if it's all bikes, but I think for some bikes, you're paying an extra £5,000. I'll have to check on the website, which is a lot. It's a crazy amount of money just for paint and badges, really, isn't it? Because they're still exactly the same bike, but it's just paint and badges, which is effectively different. So, and you got 120th on there. It's, So, I look at that and I think, well, yeah, maybe some people will buy them. I'm sure they'll sell out of all their 120th anniversary bikes. But the facts still remain that year on year, they're not selling as many bikes. People say that, oh yeah, last year, for example, Harley Davidson, they earned bigger profits. Their share price went up and up and up. Yeah, well, share prices just fluctuate for lots of different reasons, and they go there because the company's earning more money because they're charging more, right? So whilst they didn't sell as many bikes, that was offset by them still charging a lot more for their bikes and still selling a lot of finance on that. But this year is totally different because the finance prices have gone up. The motorcycle prices have gone up and up and up. There's been a huge backlash, and there's cheaper alternatives, a lot more cheaper alternatives, or people are just going to hold on to what they got. So the question is, well, yes, last year they did well, but they're still not doing as well as they were a few years ago. They might be in terms of earning money, but in terms of the growth of the business or the size of the business, it's not. So there's always smoke and mirrors here. And this is any business. This is not Harley Davidson. They're going to want you to believe that they're doing a lot better than they actually are, and that they're providing you a better service or a better product than you ever got in the past, right? That's what manufacturers do. They're always going to try and pull the wool over your eyes and say, hey, we're doing a great job, or we're doing. Now, when I say pull the wool over your eyes, not that they're trying to actively deceive you, but they're trying to convince you that our product is great and you'll get a great deal, even though the prices are going up and up and up, and everybody's saying how bad it is in terms of pricing, but we're still selling you a great product, and you should come and buy our product. And look, I don't have an issue with that. I'm concerned for dealerships, though. I'm concerned for dealerships, the honest ones, not the ones that try and rip you off with, stuff, whatever they try and do. But if they're not getting people in through the door because people can't afford it. Now, I know different countries have different pricing structures. So in the United States, for example, bikes are always a lot cheaper than they are over here and in Europe. It just is. What you're paying for in dollars, we pay for in pounds, which is about 1.5 times more than what you pay for. So your bike might be $20,000. What we pay in equivalent might be in the region of about 30,000. So we're paying a lot more. Then, let alone parts and accessories, we're always paying a lot more as well. But a lot of that is tied up with tariffs, import tariffs, and the price and shipping and everything like that. So that's why. But but even within the American market or a cheaper market, it's got to be relative to what other people can afford as well. So if people are buying other things at cheaper prices, or all their expenses are going up, you got to question. Well, guess what? Are they going to buy a really expensive motorcycle, which they may or may not use? I'm just looking out the window here because there's actually heavy snow, quite heavy snow coming down again. So there we go. That's why I didn't go out on my bike today, because I knew the roads actually were just wet. It's a big, healthy covering of snow. But I could tell. I went out in the car earlier on, or in the truck, and there's a bit of slipping and sliding. And then I thought, is this going to carry on snowing? I thought, do you know what? Nah, I'll keep the bike inside today. But yeah, so there's always smoke and mirrors with news items. There's always, and this is why I'm more reserved, definitely now, about talking about stories. If I can't see something there physically, or I'm quite reserved talking about Harley Davidson from a financial point of view, because it's always like this. There's always conflicting stories. Tegan, hello there. A dealer that seems to empty the floor quickly may have sold its stock to another dealer. Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, because they do move bikes all over the place, and a lot of these. I know this is a big thing in the US right now of dealerships who are selling trucks and cars. They've been overselling them or overpricing them for a long time. There's a big backlash. I was watching another video the other day, and again, it's all about how these prices have gone crazy, and how this has affected like used prices, and then there's backlash there, and then. Then they send these trucks and cars off to auctions as basically new models and things like that. So if you feel that there's no comparison here, then just watch what is going on in other sectors, because there is comparison here. And whilst there may not be the overpricing in the motorcycle world as there is in, let's say, in the truck world or the car world, in certain circumstances, we don't have that over here. You can't sell a vehicle over the recommended retail price or the MSRP over here. That is the price, and then we can try and get it lower. But it's quite simple. If people don't want to buy that, don't want to pay that, they shouldn't pay it. But people do, right? So dealerships and manufacturers have been feasting on, the desires of people, would-be customers for a long, long time. And we know that. It's whether they can continue to do so. And this is where I talk about the likes of Harley Davidson. And we know dealerships have closed down, and we know that there's been huge problems all over the world. This is not just the United States. It's whether they can continue with this good performance that they've been showing over the last year or so. I don't know. I'm going to say I read the stories, and I think, some stories question it, some say no, it's great. And you look at it from a financial point of view, but I just kind of try and, just push aside all that propaganda stuff, all that, cheerleading, or, the pitchforks in hand type thing. I try and push that all aside and say, actually, what's going on here? Let's just look at the numbers. I was just listening actually to a couple of reports on totally different subject, but Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and one crypto house that has just collapsed really, and everything, and how it's all smoke and mirrors and all this sort of stuff. And I think, well, yeah, you could say this about so many different things. There's smoke and mirrors about what goes on in terms of manufacturing, in terms of dealerships, in terms of how the stuff is sent out. We had it with Norton Motorcycles here. Nobody knew. Well, people had their doubts, and people were asking questions long before that Norton Motorcycles were going bust. But all of a sudden they went bust, and like, what? They went bust. What's going on? What's going on? What happened? What's happened? And then you kind of start hearing all the stuff that has been going on. You think, well, actually, this has been going on for a long time. So then you start looking at the numbers, and you say, well, how many bikes are they selling and what they're doing? So I kind of do that with other manufacturers as well. I kind of look at the numbers, look at the trends of the motorcycles, but also look at what other manufacturers are selling, what products they're selling, and how many units they're being sold. And I've always made this comparison. The reason why Honda, for example, as a manufacturer, can sell the Goldwing, or they can sell the big sports bike, they don't earn money on those big sports bikes or the Goldwing. They don't make any money on them. They make their money off the 50cc 125s, 250s, the small bikes. That's what fuels it. And companies like Indian, if it's a standalone company, I know they're Polaris, but But Indian are probably in a much better position than Harley Davidson, because they've got Polaris background, who's selling all sorts of other products that prop up the Indian brand, let's say. But Harley Davidson, all they've got is Harley Davidson, their brand, their finances, and their merchandise, let's say, and their big expensive motorcycles, which are all motorcycles, motorcycling. The expensive motorcycles, the merchandise, the finances, and the allure of Harley Davidson as a company is all on a diminishing returns. It's getting a smaller market. If you look, well, it's not a smaller market, but it's you've got to look at all these external factors. And I think so. I just think I look at a company like Harley Davidson, not because I own one, not because I'm a hater, not because of anything like that, purely from what I know in business and what I see with other companies. I just look at it from a really interested point of view to see what will happen. Morris, snow is settling here in Surrey. It's definitely it's coming down here. It's coming down here quite significantly. It's white all over here, white and snowy all over. Anyway, listen. With that, it's an hour and 45. I've been doing this. God, I have been rabbiting on, haven't I? I'm supposed to be only doing this for about half an hour today. There we go. I just get carried away and talking. But listen, I could talk, but I kind of need to go to the loo and have some lunch, I think. But there is big news. There is big news as well. I'm going on a big health drive, by the way. Going on a big health drive. Gonna be I don't know what all that is. I don't know. I'm not going to be doing any of that. I'm not going to be lifting weights, and I'm not going to be getting into the gym anytime soon. But I may need to go for more walks because the poundage has started to accumulate around the waistline, and there. Not as bad as I was before I lost weight, but it certainly has come back, and I certainly notice it up here as well. So yeah, definitely need to get more active and do some stuff, I think. But anyway, listen, all I can say is it's been a nice chat. It's been nice being with you. Thanks for coming and joining. And I say, if there's more stories coming out, I'll do that. I'll still produce the shorts on the channel, and those short videos are going out to all the social platforms as well. There's still blog posts coming out on a daily basis or every other daily basis, talking about news items and things like that, all motorcycle related, all that sort of stuff is, of course. But I'll still be monitoring all the news. If there's any bike news coming out, I'll make individual videos by that, or another live show. I still plan on doing lots of live shows as well, so hopefully you'll come in on those as well. But listen, for now, all I can say is it's been emotional. Thanks for joining. I'll catch you again. Bye now.